Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And this time, I really need you to hit that share button. And if you can translate this, get started now, please, and translate it. Look, yesterday I found out that a friend and colleague of mine who I haven't seen in a while because I thought he was married and wouldn't have that kind of time has actually been divorced for over a year and a half. He's an American citizen of East African Muslim origin. He married a woman from the same origin, but who grew up here in Saudi, so she's not a citizen. She was born here, grew up here, so she has the worst of the Saudi women and the worst of the Western women all rolled up into one, and the best of neither one, from what he explained. I'm not going to give his name. I don't know her name, so I'm not backbiting. I want you guys to learn a lesson. This man did not go back to the States and marry a woman from there. He married a woman that was from the same origin but lived in the same country in which he lived. He told a horror story in a nutshell, and it wasn't involving physical abuse, and that's the good thing, but it was a typical situation in which he had to pay a very heavy dowry to get married, and then everything he did, he got criticized for. And he even tried different approaches to the same things. He made adjustments based on the criticism. First, he said to try to get better. Then he began to realize that there was no better. He was merely going to try different approaches to prove that nothing was going to work. And he sent her back to her father eventually. And what he found out was that she was telling all their business to her family just to complain. I want to tell you that before I found this out, when I went to pick him up, he came out of his neighbor's door, not his. He introduced me to his neighbor. We sat in his neighbor's living room for a little bit, talking with some of his sons and cousins as well. And the subject of Nasawiya came up, and that's the same thing as feminism. Nasawiya is the name in Arabic, it's the name of the movement, and it's also the name of the women in the movement. So a woman would be a Nasawiya in Arabic, a feminist. Gets deeper. The men began to talk about Nasawiya, and one of them brought up the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. And he said that this had actually sent shockwaves. It caused the women to argue even amongst themselves in this society, because there were those who said Amber Heard must be right, and others who said no, evidence shows that it wasn't him, it was her. I told them she took men up to the apartment while he was away working. You know what their reaction was? They interrupted before I could finish. I told them their strategies they need to know. They interrupted before I could finish. They weren't mean. They weren't trying to silence me and not talk at all. They were just so anxious to talk at all about it and vent that they didn't listen to the strategies. I gave up trying. Here's the deal. When Rahaf Al-Qanun was still here in this country, she was not interrupting. She was a very quiet woman. Now, the teachers that taught her have said that or the one that taught her, there's one that taught her and came here to this city we're in. She transferred over here afterwards. She said that Rahaf was always on the phone. She was quiet. She didn't interrupt people. She soaked it all in, formulated a plan, and got what she wanted. And now she is a completely liberal, thought, neglectful mom, slut, bacon-eating, wine-drinking apostate. That's who she is. She got to do everything that even other Saudi women refugees in Canada find to be disgusting. She got to do all that. And that's why she did it. Everything she plotted and planned and learned was so that she could just be a hoe, be a thought, neglect her daughter, drink wine and eat bacon, and never say a prayer again a day in her life. got with a Congolese man, non-Muslim. Turns out that his baby ain't even his baby. I learned that from Abu American. So he's the source I'm citing for now. So if it's not true, inform him first. Her boyfriend said that she was going to abandon the baby though. Look, Johnny Depp winning this case set up arguments between them. And after this, I found out that my friend and colleague, who's not Saudi, that's the one that's American citizen of East African Muslim origin and married a woman of the same origin who was born and grew up in Saudi and was completely Saudified and westernized, the worst of both and the best of neither. Then I later found out, hours later, that he was divorced from her for a year and a half plus. I didn't know this before. I felt bad hearing this. And the reason being is that, frankly, one, I didn't know that for the last year and a half he was by himself. I would have come and spent more time with him and even helped him in his search to find somebody else. I would have done this. I thought it was busy because most married men in this country are busy. You got to run all these errands and do all this stuff. And these women don't fuck the shuck up. I mean, some women will actually learn how to break a few things, appliances or something, just to keep the husbands busy with repairs and spending money so he can't save up for another wife. Some of these women do that here. See, Saudi women are not really that docile. They're just not violent with men. They don't go hitting men for fun, but they're not docile. And so a non-Saudi woman that's born and grows up here can be a problem. They're spoiled. And they're becoming hostile like the Western women are. They're moving towards that. There's going to come a point where they start hitting men because it's fun and they can. That's happening. So what I wanted you all to understand from this is that Karen, Becky, and Amber, it ain't Boom Shika, Bonquisha, and Sophista Ratchet Sapphire that are busy trying to spread feminism over here. Karen, Becky, and Amber are spreading it. Now, they don't mind sharing videos of the Boom Shikas and the Bonquishas and the Sophista Ratchet Sapphires because they really embody that whole strong, independent black woman persona. They champion it. So they're the best ones to show, but they're not the ones that are busy trying to spread this internationally per se. But Karen, Becky, and Amber are willing to spread it internationally. And if they got to use Google Translate to do it, like I've told you, they'll do it. They're willing to. That's what I wanted you to understand. We, as guys, are going to have to be more zealous in trying to spread the strategies because these men are underestimating it, for one, and we're just not thinking about how it's spreading. But these men are underestimating what's going on. They're kind of bewildered. They don't really know what to do. They think the changes are inevitable, and I was trying to tell them that these changes are not inevitable, but you can learn from our errors. I'll tell you, but they just kept interrupting. These women don't interrupt. They take in the information. They're slick. One of the reasons is because these men, if you don't speak their language quickly, they don't let you finish the sentence a lot of times. Now, I'm going to get my colleague, who is fluent in Arabic, aware of what we know. And he will be able to even understand fully what happened. He will be aware of why it is that Will Smith went and hit Chris Rock. He will be aware of why it is. I'll get him up to speed on this in English. He'll be aware of why it is that Amber Heard felt like she could do this stuff to Johnny. He will be aware of whatever it was and led his wife to do what she did that drove him away. He will be aware of quite a few things. And the thing is, as he was talking, he still had some sort of sympathy because he didn't want to divorce her and have her be a stigmatized divorcee in their culture. And I told him, do you think that she feels a guck about any stigma she might have left on you? You think she would have cared? You know women judge men by how many other women want his same Johnson. You know they judge us like this. They don't care. When they don't want you, they don't want any other woman to want you. They will embarrass you publicly. They care nothing about stigmas. Matter of fact, they weaponize them. They don't mind telling other women that you're 9AY, so that when you leave them, you can't get with nobody else. Leave her with the stigma. If she did what you said she did, leave her with it. If she didn't and you're making it up, feel sympathy. But if she did what you said, make sure to stigmatize her, because women that do that don't deserve anybody. The same way they say that broke men don't deserve anybody. Just broke men, just short men, just men that are inexperienced in the bed don't deserve anyone. They always come up with reasons to say that men don't deserve somebody, anybody at all. Not just the women that don't like them, but no one should like them. And you feel bad because you were going to leave her with a stigma because everything you did was wrong. Everything you did was wrong in her eyes, no matter what you did, no matter how much you gave. After the dowry you paid to marry her. No. And if you find out she's about to get married, get in touch with that man and tell him how much of a dowry you paid. And say, listen, I paid that dowry and I still left her. Be ready to find out why. Agree to pay whatever dowry, but in installments. What's the reason? Because she may just be collecting. I don't know. And that's if she can find anybody else. But the lesson here is that we're going to have to be, as I stated before, we got to be more proactive and active in getting this information to other men. Now, some say, why should we care about them? Well, number one, Karen, Becky, and Amber care about one thing in particular. They care that no man in the world will ever be able to find a lady that is traditional while the men must be traditional. That's what they care about. They want to make this a universal condition, global, everywhere you go. If you go and find an Eskimo, well, they don't like that term, but if you go and you find an Inuit that has never lived in the city, they want to make sure that you don't have any other option except that you be traditional while she gets to be a modern day thought. That's it. And you know what happens if you come in, you're traditional, and you don't have a high body count, and she does, which she will. You know what's going to happen. She'll lose respect for you. It'll be another Will and Jada situation. They want to make sure that every man has to be Will Smith. Unless you're one of the few that they want to be Tupac or Future. That's what they're looking for. And they want to make sure that this is global everywhere you go. No tradition to stop it. So they're working against you and the other men. Now, as far as the Wyatt men go, well, they don't seem to need our help. It doesn't help. It doesn't really serve us to help them until they admit that what their grandfathers did to our grandfathers and grandmothers, it was even worse than what their women are doing to them now. And they're not going to admit that. They're not going to tolerate, the ones in the white manosphere ain't going to tolerate for 1 second what their ladies are doing to them, and they shouldn't. But then a lot of them will tell us to just get over it. And then there are those that won't tell us that. They got more sense than that. But when it comes to these other groups of men, they're not doing that per se. And I tested that water yesterday. I told the Saudi men yesterday with whom we were talking, I'm sorry I can't keep this short. I tried, but there's nothing I can do to shorten this message and give you all the info you need. When I mentioned something about it, I told them about how the white feminists, I told the oldest one about how the white feminists had really inspired black women to become even more feminist than the white women. And he listened. And he said, yeah, you know what, we kind of can see that because whites enforce their view on everybody. You, us. This is what he said. So this is known. It's understood. And if somebody can at least understand that there is a racial component to this, then they're not beyond help. Because what these feminists want is for you to have no option. They wherever you like to go, wherever they think there's the most tradition, is where they focus the hardest on trying to take the women away from that tradition. And truth be told, some of them are just upset because they focused on what they think is the Arab world. They focused on what is the Arab world and the Arab adjacent world next to it that is Muslim, and they missed Southeast Asia. That's all. They're just upset about that. because most of us weren't going to the Muslim world in general. Most men were not going to the Muslim world in general because most Western men ain't Muslim. That's all that is. They're just mad because they didn't focus on Thailand, the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, that they didn't focus on these areas first. That's what they're ticked off about. They're just mad about that. So while they were focused on the Middle East and Middle East adjacent areas, a lot of men found Southeast Asia, which has Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists alike, women of every faith, and they're upset. Their men are going to Southeast Asia and marrying the ones that are Christian or Buddhist. Our men are going and marrying the ones that are Christian or Muslim. When they get married, then they're the ones that just go and pay for play, everything. But the point is that they thought they were going to seal everything off by focusing on the wrong area. Now, the point I'm making is that they're going to go wherever they see us finding those who are traditional. And it is going to be our job to let the men of these areas know. Because you can sit up and say, hey man, I'm straight, I'm fine. If you don't let your father-in-law know and your brothers-in-law know what's coming down the pike, who your son gonna marry? You can raise your daughter right. Who your son gonna marry? He ain't gonna marry your daughter. You see where I'm going with this? And they're counting on us not doing that while they do it. So there's actually a practical benefit if we're willing to work with these other men. And sometimes it's going to be hard to get them to listen, but you know what? It helps to learn these languages because that's going to be the best way to explain the strategies that these men need. I think you got the idea, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse now. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it in black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.